Welcome back to Decode Healthcare with Harshal. So, in Cart 10, we celebrated a massive victory over Excludes Notes. But today the stakes are even higher. Our mission for this explainer is mastering the mandatory scheduling rules of the Etiology and Manifestation Convention. Basically, this is all about knowing exactly which code goes first when one disease triggers a secondary complication. If you get this wrong, your claims are literally dead on arrival.
We've got a highly structured roadmap for you today. We're going to do a zero-fluff breakdown of the mandatory sequencing rule, look at cause versus effect, decode some tricky tabular commands, and finally, dive into the very real compliance and audit risks. Let's get right into it.
All right, kicking things off with the big one, the mandatory sequencing rule.
Imagine this. You've done the work, you've combed through the chart, you submit, and bam. Why was your medical claim instantly rejected? It is honestly a coder's worst nightmare. The clearinghouse just spits it right back at you. Well, to answer why this happens, we are relying entirely on the ultimate source of truth, the FY 2026 CMS ICD-10 CM official guidelines, specifically Section I.A13. 9 times out of 10 in these scenarios, a hard-coded sequencing logic rule from these federal guidelines was broken. The manual isn't just giving you friendly suggestions, guys. It's handing down strict legal sequencing commands.
So let's step back for a second and look at the unbreakable law of logic that governs all these claims, the relationship between cause and effect.
You see, ICD-10-CM is built on the reality that some diseases literally cause other conditions across multiple body systems. And this brings us to our first key term, etiology. Etiology is just a fancy word for the underlying condition or the root cause of a disease process. A perfect everyday example is diabetes. The diabetes itself is the systemic issue, the starting point that triggers a whole cascade of other problems for the patient.
And that leads us directly to our next term, manifestation. A manifestation is the resulting condition, or the side effect, caused strictly by that underlying etiology. Take diabetic retinopathy, for instance. The patient doesn't just randomly have retinopathy, right? They have it specifically because of the diabetes. The manifestation exists entirely because the etiology triggered it.
Okay, I want you to picture a train on a track. The locomotive engine, the thing pulling everything forward, that's the etiology. That's the cause. Trailing directly behind it, firmly attached, is the cargo car. That is the manifestation or the effect. The golden law of mandatory sequencing in ICD-10-CM is this. The cause always drives first, and the effect always trails directly behind it. You can't put the cargo car in front of the engine. It just doesn't work. Cause first, effect second, always.
So, how does the ICD-10-CM tabular list actually command you to enforce this exact sequence? Let's decode those commands. According to Section I.A.13 of the guidelines, certain conditions require paired codes to fully describe what's happening to the patient. When a single underlying condition affects multiple body systems, the manual pairs an etiology code with a manifestation code. You might actually remember this from Part 6 of our Explainer series, where we looked at the alphabetic index. Remember the slanted brackets? The manifestation code is trapped inside those brackets, signaling it absolutely must go second. But in the tabular list, it's spelled out for you in red and green text.
Think of these notes as kind of a secret decoder ring for your tabular list. When you see Use Additional Code, that note sits right under the etiology code. It's a green light. It's telling you, hey, this is the engine, but you need to go find the cargo car and add it to your claim. On the flip side, when you look up a code and see a big red code first underlying condition note, you're looking at a manifestation code. This is a strict command hitting the brakes on your sequencing. It means this specific code can never be your primary first listed diagnosis. You have to sequence the root cause ahead of it, no exceptions.
And to prove just how unbreakable this rule is, let's read directly from the FY 2026 CMS official guidelines. In diseases classified elsewhere, codes are never permitted to be used as first listed or principal diagnosis codes. They must be used in conjunction with an underlying condition code, and they must be listed following the underlying condition. Guys, if you see the phrase "in diseases classified elsewhere" in a code title, that is a flashing neon sign that it's a manifestation code. It legally cannot be sequenced first.
Now, let's talk about what happens when we ignore these tabular commands in the real world, because the compliance and audit risks are huge.
Picture a digital dashboard processing an outpatient claim. You're moving fast, right? You're under pressure, and you accidentally flip the order. You place a manifestation code, maybe one of those "in diseases classified elsewhere" codes we just talked about, right into the primary diagnosis slot. So what happens next? the claim hits the clearinghouse. And because the clearinghouse software has section IA13 hard-coded into its logic, it instantly flags a 100% error alert. Your claim is rejected on the spot. It bounces right back, unpaid, creating massive audit risk and a total headache of rework for your facility.
To avoid this disaster, I want you to burn this simple 3-step fail-safe procedure into your brain. Step 1. Always identify the underlying condition. That's your engine, your etiology. Step 2. Identify the resulting condition. That's the cargo, the manifestation. And Step 3. Sequence the etiology code first, followed immediately by the manifestation code. If you follow this exact procedure every single time you see a code first or use additional code note, your coding will remain fiercely accurate and perfectly compliant. Which brings us to the ultimate punchy takeaway for this explainer: mandatory sequencing. Cause first, effect second. Never ever sever the legal bridge between cause and effect. The engine has to pull the cargo. If you follow the CMS guidelines and respect those instructional notes, you are going to absolutely master the etiology and manifestation convention.
But before we wrap up, make sure to hit subscribe and check out the helpful links down in the description. And I'm going to leave you with a really provocative question for Part 12. What happens when the word with in the ICD-10-CM manual commands a mandatory causal relationship, even if your provider doesn't explicitly spell it out in their notes? Yeah, we're diving into the dangerous and fascinating rule of with next time. You definitely won't want to miss it. Keep decoding, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.